Hello, I'm back at y'all with another episode. And on today's episode, I interview an internationally renowned yoga teacher known for his expertise in yoga philosophy, anatomy, and alignment. He's certified in Iyengar yoga and authorized to teach Ashtanga yoga by Patañjali. He's a master in the asanas, considered to be a teacher's teacher, and has been teaching since 1984, so for over 40 years now. He currently resides in Hawaii and teaches at Blue Mango Yoga, as well as online via Yoga on the Inside with Kristen Bostiels. He currently studies with H.S. Arun and Manouso Manos. Welcome to the Winner Circle, Eddie Modestini.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
I'm excited. It's a pleasure to have you. I've heard such great things about you from my teacher, Ryan Lear,
Well, they're
and just
not all
learning.
true.
So the goal of these conversations is to really uplift, inspire, and empower everyone tuning in to move forward with greater faith and belief in themselves on their hero's journey ahead. And these conversations tend to be very positive and light. And this first question sets us up as such. Eddie, what do you love about your personal world right now? Not the external world, but what do you love about your personal world?
I just so love that I could drop in to the space of emptiness. No one, nowhere, no time, no place, no personality, no ego, no preferences, just that I can really drop into the emptiness that the Buddha described as bliss. I wouldn't necessarily say it's anything other than that, just a bliss, being able to find a blissful experience, especially in my yoga practice. That's where it happens the most. As I practice pranayama, asana, and meditation, I have cultivated the ability to drop in to that empty space, and I love that.
Hmm. Beautiful. And we all have that opportunity. It's something that we could all do.
It we can. It takes practice. It takes developing a skill. It's a skill. And there are many people that are very confused about um even to talk about meditation. It's like, do you meditate? Yes. Well, what do you meditate on? Well, I watch the thoughts that come up and try to let them go like clouds passing in the sky. But meditation is thoughtless. There's no thoughts. Meditation is completely empty. And it takes a consistent, regular practice to find that place or to cultivate that place of emptiness where there's no one, no place, no time.
Hmm. And how long did it take you to find that place to be able to drop in as you are able to do now? And
About
how long
30
does it last?
about 34 years.
Hmm. And how long does it last for you now when you drop in?
Um, that's a good question. Um, it depends. Yeah, it really depends on how the practice pulls me in. There are times when there is only breath. There are times when there is very dynamic sensation in the body. There are times when I'm just in the blackness and there's no thought. The things that can inject us into this present moment, which is really present moment awareness, is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Present moment awareness has a lot to do with being able to attach your awareness to your breath, each and every one, because the breath happens now. It can't happen later. And the breath that has happened already is not in this present moment awareness. So
Mm-hmm.
sensation can only happen now. You can remember what a sensation was. You can anticipate what a sensation will be, but to really lean into sensation, that's present moment awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the empty space that you can cultivate in your awareness can be very much present moment awareness. And and that's where it is said by the masters that there is the most freedom. And I'm seeking freedom, so that when I come to that final moment in my life, there's not panic. There is acceptance. I've witnessed people die, and it's the final threshold. And most of us have fear about it. I'm not saying that I'm free of that. What I'm saying is that I want to show up for that transition as gracefully and as skilled as I possibly can, so that I can move through that transition in a gentle way. And
Mm-hmm.
that is one of my goals in life, to be able to come to that transition that I die with dignity.
Mm-hmm. Aren't you doing it now when you drop in to the present moment in the now and just disappear into that emptiness? Isn't freedom yours then and now and now and now?
Sometimes I achieve that, but it's not always there. Like I said, it took me 34 years to start to begin to scratch the surface of that. Sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
lasts 1 minute. I have had practices that have been much longer than that. Um, but it depends on so many things. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
troubled, what I'm thinking about, if, you know, how, what I ate last night, what I'm navigating through in my life, how my practice was the day before, or how it is in that moment. Because asana, pranayama, and meditation are all tools that we use, that we can become very skilled at, to drop into the generous present moment. And it is generous. It's just so magnificent how um, generous it is. It's like the earth. The earth is
Mm-hmm.
really a generous uh, place to be. It doesn't it doesn't complain if we throw trash on it, or if we hurt. As much as we've hurt the earth, you don't really get a lot of complaints from the earth.
Mm-hmm. So what
It's
does your current, oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's very accepting of our um, use and misuse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to cultivate in my being. I'm seeking to cultivate that because I have preferences still to this day, and I have reactions still to this day. As practiced as I am, I might be able to make postures look okay, but it's not about the posture. It, even though I might have chased poses for many, many years,
Mm-hmm.
only to discover that it's not about the chasing of poses. And I'm still attached to those poses because now I'm 71 and my practice is evolving. But you might say, in a sense, if you were looking at collection of poses as an accomplishment, you might say I had collected the most amount of poses by the age of 47, 48. And there are several poses that I can't do anymore at the age of 71. The
Mm-hmm.
poses that I'm doing at the age of 71 might be more refined than they were at the age of 48. But still, there is some degree of loss there. Like I can't put both my legs behind my back anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Do I strive
But
to do that these days? No.
mm-hmm.
Am I thrilled with the poses that I'm doing now? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I don't think yoga is a matter of collecting as many poses as you can.
Mm-hmm. So what have you learned that it is? So it's not about the postures. What is it about?
It's about being able to drop into the emptiness of
Mm-hmm.
being no one, nowhere, in no time, because that's where there is complete bliss. Or,
Mm-hmm.
they say that that's where samadhi lives. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to say I've achieved samadhi because all my meditative experiences have been fleeting. I don't live in meditation. And I think samadhi is more of a description of a place that you live in continuously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So would you say it's a frequency, a vibration that we're dropping into? Um,
Yes, it's a
mhm,
frequency, it's a vibration. And when you're sensitive, when you've cultivated enough quietness in your being and you've generated a relationship with your body, when you drop in, you can experience the subtlety of that vibration in your body. There's
mhm,
different areas that light up in your body that you can feel, that I
mhm,
can feel. I
mhm,
want to own, I, I want to own my experience here.
mhm,
I can feel my body light up in different areas when I drop into the subtlety that I've taken the time to explore in my life.
mhm,
And it happens in painting, it
mhm,
happens in jewelry, it happens in, I don't know that I'm going to, uh, like, one of the things that I do, okay, I'm a little hesitant to talk about this. Like, I love telemark skiing. It's a free heel approach to attaching skis to your feet and going down a mountain. And you're on your toes, and you're in a position that is very bent in your knees. It takes a, a high degree of awareness and strength. And there are times when I drop into the emptiness of what I'm discussing because I'm so involved in doing what I'm doing in that moment. And then the
Mm-hmm.
same thing happens in painting, that I become absorbed by the painting. And the same thing happens when I'm making jewelry, when I'm with the torch in my hand, or when I'm weaving a chain, that I've made the wire, fused the links, shaped the links, and then I'm weaving the links. I get lost, and I'm sitting in either sukhasana or a simple seat on the floor. I sawed off the legs of my jewelry table and I do it on the floor. And somebody might come into the room and say, "Do you realize you've been there for 4 hours?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to make dinner. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." And I find myself apologizing, and I'm still sitting in the same posture that I started in 4 hours ago. I haven't even changed sides
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so absorbed by the links, by the process.
Mm-hmm. And I feel yoga reminded you of this. And now you're able to find it in many, many things and often. And I say it's a reminding because I feel as children we had this and we forgot
Yeah,
it.
we get lost in the play.
Hmm.
We're not thinking about time. Our parents are calling for us when we're outside riding our bicycle, and we forgot that it's really cold, getting colder, or it's starting to get dark because we're so absorbed in the present moment. And, something that I have to say, it's yoga, the term yoga is expanded way beyond the practice of postures.
Hmm.
Can riding that bicycle as a child be called yoga? My father never did a posture. He was a master restorer of old masters' paintings and quite an incredible artist himself. In fact, he did this painting there and the one way above me and this one right behind me. He did this when he was 17. And, he taught me how to paint. And he would sit at the easel in front of a Rubens, restoring it, or a Degas, or cleaning a Monet, or a Van Gogh, um, for hours upon hours. And without really teaching me how to paint, that kind of transferred into my being just from being his son. Like, we didn't spend a lot of time. I didn't spend a lot of time studying with him. I spent much more time with BKS Iyengar, Krishna Patabi Joyce, HS Arun. I have 41 years with Manouso Manos, you know, with the same teacher. I have a good 10 years with Arun. I spent 25 years with BKS Iyengar and at least 15 years with Patabi Joyce. I've sought out the greatest teachers in the world. David Maloney is a teacher of mine. Gabriella Jubilaro, Patricia Walden. I've gone to great lengths to study with people who I felt had the ability to drop into the emptiness. I can't not mention Dr. Joe Dispenza, and who is a primary teacher of mine, with Jack Cornfield, with Ajahn Brahm. Like, I have many, many teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that. And I hold them in high regard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've heard you speak of the importance of finding a teacher, and we're gonna get into that in a second. One of my teachers, Richard Alpert Ramdas, says when you know how to listen, everyone is your guru. So I feel if we when we learn from these masters, these teachers, um, we're able to see teachers and gurus in everyone. But yeah, it sure helps, I believe, to have someone with a strong wisdom and knowledge to guide us on that path.
Yeah,
How
I had the
Go ahead.
blessing of being with RD quite a bit. He lived here on Maui, and
Hmm.
um, I've interacted with him a bunch. And what an amazing teacher. I met him in 1972, along with Bhagwan Das and Alan Watts and um, Krishna Das. And that was one of the things that I didn't even know it at the time. But when I was 19 years old, I didn't find yoga until I was 28. But
Hmm.
when I was 19 years old, I was kind of moving in that direction with RD,
Hmm. Hmm.
Ram Dass.
Hmm. Hmm. So do you believe that like everyone and everything can be your teacher? And what's the difference between that and then actually having a teacher, like, and I'm saying that in quotes, like all the names you listed? Can't we find teachers everywhere and everything in nature and in animals and children? Um, so how do you differentiate between that and studying with an actual teacher?
Well, a lot of times, circumstances, when I view them, when I quiet myself and listen carefully enough, I learn what I shouldn't do in,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
many
Hmm.
circumstances. When I said you should find a yoga teacher that you can trust, you mentioned
Hmm.
faith in the
Hmm.
introduction.
Hmm.
I think faith is one of the key ingredients for actually accomplishing a yoga practice and having it sit inside your being. There's a difference between learning what you should not do and learning what you should do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
you look at the integrity of a teacher and the way they practice, what they practice, and you say, wow, there's something here where they're connecting the dots in a way that I would like to connect the dots.
Hmm.
That's what I meant about finding a teacher. Yes, you could learn from every circumstance you're in, but I learn a lot of what I should not do by observing certain things. When I'm
Hmm.
looking for a yoga teacher, I want to learn what I should do in a
Hmm. Hmm.
pose or in a
Hmm.
pranayama practice or in a meditation practice. Like Dr. Joe, for instance, knows how to drop in to the emptiness and become nobody, nowhere, in no time. He does it so beautifully. And because he can do it so beautifully, he has the ability through personal experience to share that with somebody else. That's what I mean by finding a teacher. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
that has gone there, not somebody that has memorized the sequence. I don't care. Not somebody that knows the structural fundamental alignments of the postures. I don't care. But somebody that knows how to use all these techniques to drop in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you've been quoted as saying standards in yoga today are lacking. How do we find a good teacher, a quality yoga teacher?
You have to look very carefully. You have to do your due diligence. You have to know who your teacher's teacher was and
Mm-hmm.
look into the lineage. There are so many teachers teaching teacher training that got their 200-hour certificate in Costa Rica that don't even remember the name of their teacher.
Mm-hmm.
There are thousands of those people that are certified to teach. They know sequences. They might know the English name of the posture. They won't even know the Sanskrit, which I think is very significant to know the difference between Ekapada Rajakapotasana and pigeon. I think because pigeon I find is extremely dangerous, and Ekapada Rajakapotasana is an exalted, magnificent pose that can align your spine and open your hips profoundly. But
Mm-hmm.
pigeon is a knee breaker, especially
Mm-hmm.
approached the way it is in certain circumstances. And so I feel that yoga has been diluted tremendously. And that saddens me, but it's the evolution of yoga. You know, people, if they're sincere enough, they will do the due diligence to find a teacher that has the standards that are high enough to that you could say, okay, I'm going to study with this person. Like I know the teacher of every teacher that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I know the lineage of every teacher that I have.
And were you at this level since day one, once you first begun teaching 41 years ago, or is this something that has evolved? I'm thinking this is something that has evolved. Um, because as I hear you speak, like I have my inner critic saying like, well, you don't know all the Sanskrits for all the postures like Eddie does, and you don't know all this, but I'm on the path. I'm in the process. And I think I need to have compassion for myself. And I think other people hearing too is like you just don't get to where you are just like that. As you said, it took you 34 years before you're able to consciously drop in. So you kind of want to speak about the importance of progress on the path rather than destination. I feel we live in a very destination oriented society. Like when I get this job, career, house, etc., or when I get this peak posture, when I could do this posture. But it's really the journey where the sweetness is. It's the journey where now resides.
The journey is extremely important. But like you mentioned that you study with Ryan Lear.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Lear is connected intimately with lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan knows he's taken the time to learn the Sanskrit. He's taken
Mm-hmm.
the time to study with teachers that are connected as far back as they can be. You know,
Mm-hmm.
his some of his teachers, Ramaswamy, connected to Krishnamacharya, connected to Rama Mohan Brahmacharya that lived in a cave at the base of Mount Kailash.
Mm-hmm.
He took the time to study with B.K.S. Iyengar, who was a student of Krishnamacharya, who was a student of Rama Mohan Brahmacharya. When we really start to look at the lineage and connect ourselves with this lineage, we find that most of the yoga that we're practicing today doesn't even come from India. It comes from Tibet. It's Tibetan because Mount Kailash is in Tibet. And all the systems like Iyengar yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Vini
Mm-hmm.
yoga, all the
Mm-hmm.
more popular systems that have any lineage to them all connect back to that cave at the base of Mount Kailash, to Rama
Mm-hmm.
Mohan Brahmacharya.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So your advice for teachers of all sorts is to know your lineage, to know the Sanskrit terms, to know the history. And I feel I agree with all that. I also feel that in the modern world of yoga, we've gotten away from what yoga truly is. And it's almost only asanas. Like we're forgetting the yamas, the niyamas, the pranayama, the meditation, samadhi. Um, what's your thoughts on this forgetting, this diluting of yoga?
Well, one of my teachers, Patabi Joyce, it's eight spokes of the wheel
Mm-hmm.
of yoga. And a lot of the way it's presented is in an order where yama and niyama, the ethical and moral disciplines of yoga, should be established before you practice asana. And Patabi Joyce disagreed with this. Patabi Joyce
Mm-hmm.
said that you learn the ethical and moral spokes of the wheel of yoga through practicing asana. And you deepen that understanding through practicing pranayama. And then it goes on from there. So if you have to be absolutely clean in your consciousness and in your body before you start asana, then where do you get to evolve? You evolve from the practice of asana and pranayama, and then yama and niyama expand. If I would have needed to be completely evolved morally, ethically, and physically before and clean throughout in my body and my awareness before I
Mm-hmm.
practiced asana, I never would have started.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sick when I started. I found yoga because of an injury. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I talked about meeting RD, um, Baba Ramdas, when I was 19 years old in New Mexico. Um, and that might have been the initial kickoff, you might say, of my yoga, even though I didn't practice asana for another 10 years.
Until you hurt your
Um,
back.
I hurt my back when I was 28 building an elk fence in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
digging in the Rocky Mountains. You don't try to dig in the Rockies because there's a lot of rocks. And, pulling these giant rocks out of holes in order to put a post in the ground 4 feet, I slipped 2 discs in my back, and the back pain was excruciating, and the sciatica going down my leg was unimaginable at the pain I was in. And I went to the doctor and he said, well, you need surgery. And I said, no way I'm going to get surgery because I don't think that's going to fix me. So I went out to California looking for a healing. And at first I fasted, and then I did Tai Chi for a year. And one day I looked at my Tai Chi teacher and I said, Jim, how am I doing? Jim Spira, I'll never forget this. He was a great instrumental teacher for me, taught me Tai Chi for a year. And he said, you're really stiff. I think you should try yoga. Can I take you to a yoga class? And he took me to my first yoga class with a certified Iyengar yoga teacher named Jana Uransky.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 7 months pregnant. So she had a big belly and she was teaching all this very advanced work. I remember falling out of a posture in my first class, but also having the recognition that this practice could heal me. And it was the faith that was born in that class that I felt made yoga effective for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't have faith in what you're doing, that it's not going to be as profound for you personally as it will be for the individual that has faith in their practice, whether it's whatever the practice is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel that's one of my greatest lessons that I'm stepping into and just absorbing about all of yoga, and that's Isvara Pranidhana, humble faith and surrender. What have you learned about that principle?
That it's the most important ingredient in any undertaking. If you want to learn to become good, effective, evolved in anything, I think faith is a key ingredient that can propel you down the path of whatever it is that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
this faith that this thing will work. Like I believed in yoga from that first yoga class. I said to myself, wow, I tried Tai Chi for a year. I loved it, but it didn't alleviate my body from pain. But in that
Mm-hmm.
first yoga class, I had a aha moment. Oh my God, this is it. And I don't know if it was the yoga or that spark of awareness that connected inside me. This is it. Or maybe it was because I practiced yoga in other lifetimes that I recognized, oh my God, I found my practice again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
believe that I've done, and I've had teachers tell me, you've done yoga many lifetimes. Tabi Joyce told me that.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at me and told me that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that. Sometimes I do poses for the first time and I recognize them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like an old friend. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in 4 or 5 lifetimes. This is amazing. Thank you for coming back into my life.
Interesting. Out of the 196 Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, only 3 of those pertain to physical asana, from my understanding. 2.48 in particular interests me. We've talked a lot about pain. You've also mentioned good. 2.48, from my understanding, asanas could lead us to a place where we transcend dualities, where pain and pleasure don't exist, good and bad are irrelevant. What is your understanding of that sutra 2.48 and the nature of dualities and transcending that?
Well, that's what I'm talking about when I've had fleeting moments of being no one, nowhere, in no time. That's exactly what that's describing. In the emptiness of that is neutral, that is just so involved with the vibration that animates this universe that there's no longer duality in the mind. Duality is a mental construct, but life is an experiential awareness.
Mm-hmm.
They're very different. You have a mind, you have a body, you have emotions. None of those things are you.
Mm-hmm.
You are the awareness that can observe your body, that can observe your thoughts, and but you are awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
are nothing that you can observe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We identify ourselves with our thoughts. We become identified with our emotions. But when you really start to look at it, you are not your feelings. You are not your thoughts. You are not this body. You are awareness itself. I mean, one of RD's, you said your teacher is Baba Ramdas. One of RD's
Mm-hmm.
greatest meditations in the last 20 years of his life was a mantra that he repeated that said, I am loving awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I am loving awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
when
am
you,
loving awareness.
I am loving awareness, you are awareness, I am awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not, duality is a mental construct. You could
Mm-hmm.
use your mind in a very creative way, but you could also use your mind in an uncreative way.
Mm-hmm.
And your emotions can lead you down a very bright path, and it could
Mm-hmm.
also lead you down a very dark path.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the beauty of choice? Viktor Frankl says that's our greatest of human freedoms. And with awareness, it's now our duty, our responsibility, our opportunity to employ that choice and to create whatever reality we wish.
Right. But, we also need to have freedom to make a choice. Sometimes our emotions are so strong
Mm-hmm.
that we feel that there's no choice.
Mm-hmm. Is that because of samskaras that have got us caught in those loops?
I'm not sure why that is because I get caught by emotions. I get caught by ideas. I get caught by my physical abilities. I get pulled by all these things, and the more I could acknowledge that I am not any of these things, that I am not my body, that I am not my thoughts, that I am not
Mm-hmm.
my feelings, the more I could stay in the vibration of pure awareness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ramdas' teacher, Neem Karoli Baba, he taught him and he teaches us all to love everyone and tell the truth. What have you learned about love? What does that mean to you?
To step outside of your own experience enough to know what the absolute fitting and appropriate way to act with those around you so that you're providing a blessing. Sometimes really good intentions don't carry with it a blessing.
Mm,
I seek to be a blessing in every moment of my life, and sometimes, oftentimes, I fall very short of that because I allow my personal identity get in the way of my, what I might call my needs or my wants. You know, what it is that will fulfill me
mm-hmm.
personally. That could get in the way of love,
Mm,
very much so, and very
mm,
strongly. And I'm trying to evaporate. And so I can look in it, I can walk into a circumstance and say, what does this circumstance need from me? Not what can I get out of this circumstance? And that's a hard
mm-hmm.
perspective, man, because we're all collecting. We're very much wanting to collect things, a home, a
Mm,
car, money, family, all the things that fulfill us. And
mm-hmm.
we're, as human beings, we're all collectors. And we have to realize that when at the end of this journey in this life, we can't take anything that we collect with us. What we
Mm-hmm.
really take with us is the way we've treated this life, the way we've treated ourselves, and the way we treat others. And we learn how to treat others through the way we treat ourselves. So,
Mm,
how do you justify a yoga practice? By going into this yoga practice and learning how to love yourself more deeply because you're caring for this body, for this mind, for these emotions. You learn the skill of caring through going to the mat and doing a posture and doing it in the most polite way that you can, not by pushing yourself into these shapes, but being polite in a sense and asking permission to come in. May I please come in? With these postures, you don't go to the back door and run right in because that's where even postures put their garbage. It all
mm-hmm.
piles up against the back door. When you go to somebody's house, you knock on the front door
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they want to
Mm-hmm.
greet you. You don't go into the closet, so to speak, and look and explore all the parts of people themselves or asanas with what they want to overcome, because we all have
Mm,
faults. Each one of us has faults. And it's a constant evolution, like you said. You don't come in understanding the Sanskrit. You know, you could be a yogi and call Urdhva wheel, even though it's a bow. Urdhva means the full bow pose. But
mhm,
there are thousands of people that will call that posture wheel, and it's not a wheel. It's really a bow. Can you
mhm,
evolve with the while you think it's a wheel? Yes, you can evolve. But this is what I meant about the dilution of yoga.
mhm,
Be interested enough to find out that Urdhva is a bow pose, that the
mhm,
floor
mhm,
is the string and the body is a bow, that it's
mhm,
not a wheel.
mhm, mhm.
Be interested
Uh,
enough to find that.
I am, and I need to have compassion with myself on that path, though, to not to expect that I'm going to be Eddie Modestini year 41 of teaching in my year 10, and like I think compassion.
Absolutely. And you know, you have this ingredient that I call faith. At 10 years, I was lucky enough in my journey of yoga to have the spark of faith from the first moment. And
Hmm.
wherever you are on that path, as long as the ingredient of faith is there, it will lead you down a bright path of openness, and you will become more compassionate with yourself. And you don't need to know all the names, is what I'm saying. You could have,
Hmm.
it could be wheel for the rest of your life, and it will serve you. It will open your heart.
Hmm.
Yoga, yoga is profoundly effective, even if our mental constructs are not completely accurate.
Hmm. Hmm. Another important piece to this is personal practice versus studying in a studio. And I think this is something you are deeply passionate about. In your living space, you have a room dedicated for your personal practice where you go explore and where you go drop in, versus which most people, most yogis do, and they're studying in studio in group classes, and there's a big difference. Can you elaborate on the importance of personal practice versus studying in group settings, and then also the benefit of those group classes?
You go to class to learn what you want to decide for your practice.
Hmm.
But going to class is not your practice.
Hmm.
It's two different things.
Hmm.
You learn what you think might benefit you, your body, your mind, your emotions. You learn that in studying. Studying is different from practicing. So, this is my living space here,
Hmm.
where there's a couch, right?
Hmm.
And a kitchen.
Hmm.
I want to show you my living room.
Mm. That's your mantle?
This is this is one of the altars. in my room.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your teacher,
Mm-hmm. One of them.
one of them. There's one of my teachers. And I'm showing you the lineage.
Mm.
Now look at this. Look at the tools that I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
This is my living room. You know, this is the practice space
Mm-hmm.
where I'm using all these tools to bend my body around. You see this, look, almost everything here
Mm-hmm.
is a tool to bend my body so that I
Mm.
can go to the edges of my being and gently press on the edges so that I can expand my awareness, because your body is a grid. Your body is a map that you can explore, and you can exercise almost every reaction that you have out in life on the mat by
Mm-hmm.
yourself when you
Mm-hmm.
approach the postures. So you could find acceptance, you could find resistance, you could find um, a merger, you could find repulsion, you could find all these different qualities when you go to the mat. You can experience a lot of these things in a classroom, but I believe that you're going to class to learn what you want to explore that's personal to you, which is different from studying. Practice and studying are two different things.
Yeah.
You know, you see people with their yoga mat underneath their arm and they're on their way to a class, and you say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And they're like, "I'm going to practice." Well, you're going to study. I
Mm-hmm.
I I find those are two different things. That's for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's great to go to classes. And I think it's really important to take what you learn in those classes back to your home when you're by yourself on your sticky mat or without a sticky mat. I have one teacher doesn't use any sticky mats at all. Not 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 at all.
Mm-hmm.
So your practice space to bring what you learn in class back to your space and explore the content, the internal content of your being. Because there's a universe inside of you
Mm-hmm.
that you could touch. That's why the yoga that Kristen and I teach now, we call yoga on the inside, because it's not just the fundamental structural alignments of the poses that we're exploring, but it's what's going on inside those fundamental structural alignments that opens up a universe before
Mm-hmm.
you that you can experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it's a work in. Yoga is a work in rather than a workout. It could be.
Yes, and a lot of the presentation in America, all over the Western world, is people are more interested in the workout possibilities with yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Western mind has reduced yoga to exercise. but yoga is
Mm-hmm.
not exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I feel
Because
the solution. Go ahead.
yoga is effort without tension. And if you go in a
Mm-hmm.
gym, if you look at people's faces, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
tension there. And if you go
Mm-hmm.
to an exercise class, there's a lot of tension there.
Mm-hmm.
But yoga is
Mm-hmm.
effort without tension.
Mm-hmm. Ahimsa.
It's being exactly, it's being gentle with your body. It's being peaceful with your body. To
Mm-hmm.
go
Mm-hmm.
into, advanced poses or any pose and to cultivate sweetness inside that
Mm-hmm.
pose, I think is a great orientation for any practice. Whether the pose is deep or shallow, it doesn't matter. How sweet is it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
as you accrue the years of practice, the poses get more and more challenging if you have faith. They will evolve. They will open. The
Mm-hmm.
body that I had when I started was very stiff and restricted, and now it's much more flexible.
Mm-hmm. But the consistency between all these poses, regardless of the difficulty of the pose, is the sweetness and also the breath, a soft breath.
Soft breath, slow, smooth, even, complete inhalation, followed by a slow, smooth exhalation. And the
Mm-hmm.
movement between poses should be the length of the breath. No abrupt approach to any asana should be taken. It should be slow and polite, like you reach your hand to shake somebody's hand. It should be slow and gentle, not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, pressing, not pushing,
Mm-hmm.
not forcing. I forced postures for many years, and I injured myself in that force many, many times. I injure myself less and less and less the more I practice. And I'm doing much more difficult poses.
Mm-hmm.
But my
Mm-hmm.
approach, my relationship with the posture is much more polite than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How important is the jhana yoga path, like the studying of the sacred texts in philosophy? What role does that play in the yogic journey?
I This is very interesting. I had a Sanskrit scholar studying in my class, taking
Mm-hmm.
asana, one of the Sanskrit authors of the Yoga Sutras was in my
Mm-hmm.
class.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say something, and she'd say, "That's a sutra." And I would look at her confused and say, "What sutra is that?" And she would state the sutra, and I would say, "Oh, that's interesting." And this kept going a lot. She was in a training, and she would say it like 10 times in a class. And she's like, "Do you realize you're teaching all these yoga sutras?" And I was like, "No, I've never studied the Yoga Sutras." And she's like, "But you're teaching them." And I said, "Everything I'm teaching, I'm learning from the practice of yoga. I've
Uh-huh.
never opened a Yoga Sutra book."
Mm-hmm.
That really struck me strongly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say about that.
I think it's all pointing at the same thing, and that is yoga. Atta yoga anushasanam. Yoga is now, now dropping in.
And Guruji would always say to us, "Do your practice and all is coming."
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say go to class and all is coming. He didn't say study the Yoga Sutras and all is coming. He said, do your practice and all is coming. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, I'm all about the practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hit the mat, hit the mat, hit the
Hit the
mat.
mat.
That's where you learn about yourself.
Hit the mat softly and with ease.
Exactly. Be sensitive to yourself. Don't
Mm-hmm.
force. Go
Mm-hmm.
to your practice space, whether you're using a sticky mat or you're on a slate floor. Some of my best practices have been without a sticky mat or a prop or anything other than a level surface. That's all. I find it difficult to practice on the beach. I live in Hawaii. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people will say, hey, let's do a photo shoot on the beach so we can include the ocean and, all the beauty of nature. And I was like, okay. But for me to really show the yoga, I
Mm-hmm.
really would love a level surface. Even if it's
Mm.
even if it's outside, I seek a hard level surface.
Mm.
Something
It's interesting.
a foundation to build the temple of my being on. A foundation
Uh-huh.
that's level to build my body, which is the temple that we live in.
Uh-huh. Can you explain to me the difference between doing the yoga, which I feel is the asanas, versus being the yoga?
Well, I think doing the yoga gives you the opportunity to learn how to be the yoga,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doing the practice. And some people are what I call walk ins.
What's that?
They're a walk in, they don't need to evolve. They were born as an evolved being. And do they need asana? Maybe not. Probably
Mm.
not, because they live in a world that is a blessing.
Mm.
Did Mother Teresa ever do a yoga pose?
I don't know, but she sure was a yogi.
She sure was a yogi. She sure was a yogi. And did she ever do a yoga pose? I needed the poses. I still need the
Mm.
pose to keep me in line. I
Mm-hmm.
find fault. I fall short of the way I want to show up for this world, for my pets, for my plants, my people, all the time. I want to evolve into becoming a better human being. I hit the mat as regularly as I can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I heard you say that the strongest yoga is staying in a marriage and having children. Yoga is the way we treat our family. Can you expound upon that?
Well, it is in my face all the time with my partner. I have an idea that I'm showing up for my children, for my partner in the best I can be. But sometimes it doesn't land so that it's as supportive as it can be for them, because I
Mm-hmm.
want my children, like, because in my mind I want the best for my children. I might say, you should go to college or you should do this, when their orientation is maybe not to go to college. And with my partner, I want to be the most supportive person to help them evolve in the way they should evolve, not the way necessarily I think they should evolve. And
Mm-hmm.
I need a reminder of this all the time. And staying in a relationship is a mirror, whether it's with your pets, your plants, your children, your partner, your friends. All of these things are relationships, even your yoga practice. And sometimes you don't get to practice that day because you're busy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's returning over and over to the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
that, as you said, that if you are listening, you can learn from everything. So everything can be a mirror. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at your garden. Are the plants dying? Look at the plants in your house. Are they thriving? Look around. Look. Is your partner crying? I have to ask myself when my partner cries, did I influence that? Is what I'm doing in my life influencing that? And sometimes it is. And I have to really look inside my being and say, dude, you got to show up better. That's
Mm-hmm.
why staying in relationships helps you exercise that mirror of self reflection
Mm-hmm.
and really studying the self. Yoga is the study of the self and asking yourself, how am I showing up? And I want to show up better all the time. And sometimes I don't. And I want to evolve as a human being. And I hope that I have that sentiment all the way to the very end because there's
Mm-hmm.
always room for growth. I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that in Mr. Iyengar. I watched that in several of my teachers. I watched that in my partner. My my current partner,
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Bastiles, started off as my student.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would cite her as one of my greatest teachers,
Mm-hmm.
not only in life, but in the postures, because she has used the postures in such a way to manage life in a more creative way. And her understanding of the postures and the way she shares that with me has had a profound effect on my practice and what I can share with other people.
Mm-hmm.
She is one of my greatest teachers. Although I didn't
Mm-hmm.
list her as one of my teachers in the beginning, I have to end this interview as saying she is one of my best teachers, one of my greatest teachers, and has affected me in the most profound way.
Mm-hmm. What is the greatest lesson you've learned from her?
That I could treat her better all the time, day to day. That there's more that I could offer her in a creative way that will serve her, and I can allow compassion and sensitivity to come before my personal wants and my personal needs.
Mm, interesting. Because what I'm wondering is, in order to treat her better, don't you have to treat yourself the best?
I do. I do. And that's what I'm learning on the mat. I'm learning on the mat to treat myself better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning from her that sometimes I'm showing up really well, and sometimes I'm falling short of the target.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my teachers says, the truth is a moving target. Truth is a moving target.
Mm.
So you always have to regulate yourself in relationship to hitting that target precisely. And that's evolution. And you evolve through what you experience in your yoga practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, beautiful. That brings me to my closing question, and it's a continuation of Neem Karoli Baba's advice to us all. Love everyone and tell the truth. Eddie, what do you most know to be true?
That I'm a work in progress. Sometimes I'm growing and sometimes I'm not. And I really return to my practices regularly as I can and do what I can in my life, in my relationships, in all the things that I do to become a better human being, whatever that means.
Mm, mm. Thank you so much. It's been a real blessing and an honor to sit by the fire and to chat with you and to connect and hear all your wisdom and lessons learned on the path. For people wanting to connect with you, Eddie, they could find you on Instagram at Eddie Modestini Yoga, and they could train with you online. The blessings of this world we live in is we could access teachers from around the globe via the internet, and you teach online, the Christian yogaontheinside.com, and that's also on Instagram at yoga on the inside. Any last words before we close?
Well, the best way to contact me is Yoga on the Inside and Instagram, because we are trying to come forward with an educational platform that we're presenting tools that have worked for us um, on this journey we call life. And it's in Instagram on Yoga on the Inside that we are regularly providing that information and sharing the teaching that we have to teach on a daily basis. So that's where I would invite people to connect with us is Yoga on the Inside and Instagram.
Thank you. And we can't shake hands digitally, but I can move slowly and bringing it in for a digital fist bump
Let me give you a
or a
hug.
hug.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And just to celebrate your teacher, Ryan Lear, he brought you to me, and I'm so thankful for Ryan and the lineage, the standard that he holds himself and the lineage that he pursues in his yoga study.
Yeah, I feel honored to learn from him and to now be learning from you and all the teachers that have come before and that will come in the future.
Yep. Namaskar.
Namaskar.